We're live.
Hello. There we go.
Kelly, me, and the Buddha back there.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Good morning from East Nashville.
Good morning from East Nashville. It's quite lovely, actually. A little windy, overcast. And we were just watching the squirrels run around on the balcony. They're always after the bird feeder.
Yeah, it's a constant. It's actually one of our greatest entertainments these days.
True.
the struggle with the bird feeder and the squirrels, but we kind of figured it out, I think.
What was it? Some friend of yours said, like, who was it? Dana was talking about how he finally noticed the bird feeder or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Because he has nothing else to do. So he started paying attention to the bird feeder and the squirrels who are always attacking it.
Yeah, so this has been part of our entertainment this week.
A lot of space, of course, enjoying it. And a lot of attention paying to our channel and everything these days, which is really great. It's really, this right here, it's a product of, having the time and the space to actually be able to do it. Beautiful. Mm-hmm. So good things coming out of the sequester, right?
Yeah.
Like to see it end as soon as possible, personally.
I think we're,
nearing
24/7 is
a lot.
A lot.
But not for you and me.
Well, for a lot of people.
Hey, shall we answer a couple of questions? Because a couple of things that right off the bat, there are people who actually are sending in questions long before we start, at least an hour before, And once the feed starts rolling, they get lost back there. So we're making a point of addressing the first few questions that came in.
And we saw a few that came up last week that we didn't get to answer that asked again. So that's pretty cool.
And because it popped into my head, I remember what that question was, and it's about someone was asking about the Les Paul. He said that he likes the Purple House album.
Yeah,
is that here, sweetie?
This one right here. Hi, Robben.
Eric Vardal said digging the Purple House album, which thank you so much, because I dig it too. And there's a lot of photographs inside. And in particular, there's a Les Paul that I'm playing. And he asked, what that Les Paul is. And we have had it up on Instagram and things like that to some extent, talked about it. But it's a 54 to a 59 conversion, right? So it was a gold top with P90s and not the stop tailpiece, it was a trapeze tailpiece. So it was converted to look and act like a 59 Les Paul. They put a flame top on top of it, routed it out for humbucking pickups, and those pickups are indeed fantastic, real PAFs. So it's a conversion, and it sounds unbelievable. It's like I don't. People have asked about the Les Pauls, and just before the sequester, I had sent that Les Paul to have a little bit of work done on it away. And by the time it came back to a music store where they did the shipping for me, and sequester. So the guitar's locked up. I haven't been able to get to it. And I've been thinking about asking a friend of mine who works there, a young man named Drew Smithers, excellent guitar player, who actually takes the guitar solo on the song Willing to Wait on the Purple House album. For any of you who might be interested, that's not me. It's a young man named Drew Smithers. Lives here in Nashville.
Awesome. He is. He's a super sweet guy. You should definitely check him out.
Yeah, if he could be checked out. It's difficult because the only exposure he's had has been with a band that is now defunct, called why is it escaping me? They're from Natchez, Mississippi. Bishop Gunn.
Right.
So they have recorded at least one.
There must be some YouTube videos.
Oh, there could be some YouTube. Yeah. Lead singer kind of takes the stage.
I checked him out.
I saw one, and everybody's kind of back behind the lead singer, whereas Drew deserves a little more attention, I would say. So anyway, the Les Paul is that conversion, and so there you go.
So how about this
that first question, yeah, from Michelle Tachi, Michael Tachi, Michelle Tachi. Would it be possible to send you some music to listen to, as I thank you for your amazing inspirations over the years? All the best, Michelle. Well, thank you very much. The only way that I could really do that, I'm actually offering on my Guitar Dojo channel a platform where you can send me video of anything that you like. It could be you playing, you could perform a song, and I will respond via video. The reaction to the private lessons thing on the channel, which we just True Fire channel. What do you mean?
Because there's a YouTube channel too. So we're talking about the True Fire Dojo channel.
Well, the dojo, yeah. The Robben Ford Guitar Dojo channel. Mm-hmm. That one. We started offering private lessons, but the reaction was such that it just kind of overwhelmed me. And so I'm not really giving traditional lessons like I would, me with the guitar and showing you stuff, but I'll assess and I'll give you my comments in video form with whatever you send to me. So that's now the kind of lesson aspect of my Guitar Dojo, kind of tier 2 level for subscribers.
It's just great because so many people are sending you videos all the time, and he on Facebook and Instagram, and you never get a chance to look at them. It's just too much.
No,
so this is a great way for people who really want to make a connection to do that.
That's right, and I would be happy to do that with you. So thank you for asking. There was another one that caught. Oh yeah, I love this. Amir Hosseini from Iran. Just really knocked out by that.
So
thank
sweet.
You. Greetings from Iran with love. Would you talk a little bit about altered chords, for example, why flat 5 and not sharp 5 is? It is just a matter of tension or the feeling of the chord itself. Yeah, because they can be different scales. That's why you would choose one over the other. So if you have if you have a +5 chord, it's a different scale than if you have a flat 5 chord. So I'll even show you. So I don't do too much of this. It's kind of like a guitar lesson, but I thought it was a good question, because a lot of people might, know a flat 5 chord. And sorry, we're not under the best demonstration possibilities here. No, it was good where you had it. Yeah, I liked it actually.
Do you want to go back? Go back a little.
So like that right there. Maybe just tilt it forward just a little.
I'm gonna go back a little bit.
Tilt it forward.
Yeah.
So let's just have an open A, the 7th, the 3rd. That would be the raised 5th, and that would be the tonic. Okay, so that would be A +5. The scale is half diminished. Series of half steps and whole steps. Half step, whole step, half step. And then it's all whole steps. And it wants to go to D, Now if you play that chord, which is a flatted 5th, there are 2 different scales that you could use. And one would be the diminished, all half steps, whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, excuse me. So you can play that scale on that chord voicing, A7 flat 5, half step, whole step, half step. Or you can play just whole tone. Which works for all whole steps. And in all three of those cases, you know, they're a 5 chord that wants to go to D, except the diminished one. That doesn't need to resolve to D. It can, but it doesn't need to. Because you can play an A7 chord right out of that scale. That's what cracks me up, you know. I'll play this diminished scale, which sounds so strange, and then go, yeah, all of these notes in an A7 are in that scale, so I can absolutely do that. And this is my confirmation on the half step, whole step scale, that you can absolutely use it as a vamp chord. You can just jam on that. Diminished scale, it does not have to resolve up a fourth, because you can go. You can do that, and all those notes are in that scale. You can just play the scale, use that scale of A7. Okay, I hope that made sense.
What's this one you liked?
Which one?
Dear Robben.
Oh, yes. This is from Luke. It says, Dear Robben, you've mentioned several times composers like Ravel, Copland. Could you talk a little bit about your favorite compositions by them? Thanks. I love this because for me, being introduced to classical music was a big deal in that, you know, of course, I'd heard some classical music, you know, throughout my life, you know, growing up, and I say up until about age, let's say 20, 21, you know? But it was having met Tom Scott and Roger Kellaway, both Los Angeles musicians at that time. Tom always. Roger's from the East Coast, but he's in Ojai, California, where I used to live now. And so I was introduced to a lot more classical music from the two of them. And yes, indeed, I can cite some. And Ravel in particular, I have to say, is my favorite composer. And I think one of the reasons is his incredible sense of melody and also his orchestrations. Just an amazing orchestrator. And when you say orchestrations, that means what instrument you choose to play, which notes, you know, like it's violins will play this chord, you know, trumpets or whatever will play that chord, you know. Orchestration is what instrument plays what notes, because maybe you wrote the whole thing on the piano. Now you orchestrate it. You know, what's playing that note, this note, right? That's called orchestration. So Ravel for me, my favorite. I already was a lover of Stravinsky. And it was Tom Scott who introduced me to Stravinsky's music, in particular through the piece of music called Song of the Nightingale. This is an amazing piece of music. Of course, the Firebird is amazing. I think I was familiar with the Firebird. And, you know, Rite of Spring is just so weird. What can I say? So I know basically the more famous compositions. You know, Ravel's Bolero I was listening to since before I was age 10. We had a record of it at home. And I used to conduct Ravel's Bolero standing in front of the stereo when no one else was around. I listened to it a million times. And I still love it. And its orchestration, that's the most unbelievable representation of orchestration, because it's the same melody over and over again, only played by different instruments, different orchestrations. Amazing. I would also like to recommend the Mother Goose Suite by Maurice Ravel, the Piano Concerto in G major. Unbelievable. Just fantastic music, you know? And I'm also a big fan of Eric Satie, but I only person that knows how to play it is a guy named Ciccolini. I think that's how you say his last name. Adolfo Ciccolini, something like that. Can I get my cell phone, sweetie?
You want mine?
Well, I was going to have to look at my iTunes.
Okay.
I'm almost positive it's Ciccolini, but I want to be very clear about that. And just piano music, you know? No other instrument, right? And that's where everybody is familiar with Gymnopédies. There's a particular, this is Satie. There's a particular piece from there that everybody knows. It was big time hippie music. Where are you? Oh, is it under E? Sorry to be doing this on your time, people. Eric Dolphy? No. Okay, I can't find it. But y'all might know a piece of music that goes, a lot of, it was, let's do a better key.
I know that.
I'm just winging it here. But it was sort of popularized by the band Blood, Sweat, and Tears. The second album from Blood, Sweat, and Tears, which is where most people were introduced to Blood, Sweat, and Tears, opens with that. Play it on the flute. Okay, I'm going to move on from there. What do we got, sweetie?
This one.
Mystic Mile solo?
We're just kind of going from top.
From the top.
Yeah. So.
I don't remember how it begins, and he mentions Stuart Vessel's Mystic Mile solo. Can you discuss the Parker-like line over 1 to 4, and was it worked out? Nothing's ever worked out in my case. Very rarely. Occasionally, I will actually kind of compose a solo on a record, and then I will play that solo live. It's like 2 or 3 songs I've done that over the years, where the solo was just, it became a composition, and I'll play it live. But I don't work things out before I play them when I record. And thank you for liking it and mentioning the Mystic Mile album. That was the second Blue Line album. That was the second of 3 records I did with the group The Blue Line. We talked about the Purple House Les Paul.
This one.
Could you speak about the challenge between playing music as a need coming from within versus the requirements of the music business, about music being art but also work? Yes. Even our Buddhist teacher said, it's a problem for artists because they're making art and making a living. They have to put the two of them together. He never said how to do it. You know what? There's a book, though, by a dear friend. His name is David Nichtern. And he has written a book. This is great. I can actually plug my friend's book, but not just because he's my friend. But he wrote a book. What is it? Something in Making a Buck. Art and Making a Buck. Anyway, David Nichtern. Write down his name, David Nichtern.
N-I-C-K.
T-E-R-N.
Yeah.
David Nichtern. You will be, I think, you'll find him interesting. And everything about the guy. He's always been one of the smartest people I ever knew. An insightful, intuitive guy.
And a wonderful musician.
He actually wrote the song Midnight at the Oasis by Maria Muldaur. He hit many, 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 many years ago. And boy, he sure made a lot of money. What else?
See,
we did the Purple House.
Please explain this one.
Explain your approach to adding chords to a 2/5 progression to make it jazz blues. Your book is wonderful, and I was wondering if you could dive deeper into the subject. Daniel, not here. It is too deep, you know, and there is a lot of that, of course, within my courses, and also I'm talking a lot about these things at the dojo, my subscription channel. And if you like, you know, we could do, you know, an assessment. But thank you. There was something that interested me, sweetie. True guitar legends are instantly recognizable, and you check that box. Oh, thank you. No matter what you play. Sometimes you play through backline amps, etc. Do you have a routine when you meet new gear? Good question. No. I just go. There's not enough time. You know, you just plug into it and you know, I just get it to where best I can, which normally, you know what these amps can do, you know, like it's always Fender Twin, Super Reverb, or Hot Rod DeVille. These are the 3 amps that I will request as my potential back line, you know. And sometimes they sound good, sometimes they don't. I have played and really I would rather have put my head in an oven than play through these amplifiers. And I've had to play gigs like that. Trio. So yeah, it is rough, people.
Oh yeah.
Thank you for at least,
sure.
I got to gently express some of my frustrations of the road over the years and why I'm not doing it anymore. Won't see me out there too much anymore, man. Okay.
Okay, let's see. Oops, whoa.
I saw something about studio production.
Sorry. Here we go. Yeah, this one here. Mimo.
Langela? Mm-hmm. Can you please talk about the studio production of your solo albums from the first day in the studio till the end of mastering? That's a big question.
A big question.
But I can talk a little bit about that. Studio production, yeah. You know, it is very interesting. I have found that, you know, the only teacher is experience, so you have to be able to screw up, and that is really can be costly. So you want to have, you know, I always have people around me, man, that I can count on, you know. So if I'm going to produce something, I need to feel very secure about the engineer, the studio, the musicians that are playing, right? If I have a group, clearly I already trust the band, you know. So you need to be working with people who know what they're doing, right? That's ground zero, because now you're making a record, which is very different than a live performance. And then, you know, after getting sounds and everything, for me, it's just a process of reacting to the moment. You know, what's going on? How does it feel? How do we feel? You know? And that's the starting point. Everybody be comfortable. Are you comfortable? If you're not comfortable, let's change it, you know? And I'm always the last guy to be comfortable, because I'm always trying to make everybody else comfortable. Now, this is a mistake that I have learned to work with over the years. And still I can find myself in that situation. At my age, after all these years, you know, it's like, wait a minute, it's my record. And like everybody else is like grooving. And I'm over here like in a corner or some shit, pardon my French. So being comfortable, very important, you know. And of course you go in there with at least a solid idea of what you're going to do, you know, like have, you know, 2, maybe 3 pieces of music that you're going to record. And you start, you know, there, listen, you know, like, and be very critical, but not to the point of wrecking the groove. So you need to let the environment speak to you, the other people speak to you, because it's easy to get caught up in something and think you know what's right, or just keep changing something, because you don't think it's right, So you have to be patient. And I'm not really a very patient guy. I want it, and I want it now. So there's that, balancing your own energy with the actual energy of the situation, the environment that you're in. Trusting people to a certain extent, but not completely, I like to think that I know best. So you have to allow that you might not. But at the same time, if something keeps nagging you, let's change it. And you have to have the leadership skills to be able to actually say yes and no, And that's working with people. And it's like, it's just not working for me, man, If that's how you feel. So, we need to change this. So please don't play that. And in fact, try this, So these are the guidelines to, this is the kind of things that I work with when I'm in a studio producing a record. For now. Tell you what, shall we play?
Yeah, I was just going to say, you should play something.
Should I play a song, or do we want to get loud first?
Why don't you play a song? We'll get loud.
Okay.
We'll warm up.
All right.
Warm up a little.
All right. I have two songs I wanted to play for you today. They're both in the key of E flat. So my guitar here is tuned down a half step, so that you know. This is this is a triumvirate here. I'm going to play two songs that were inspired by this girl over here, and this guitar is named after her. Oh, come on. Okay. You see how lucky I am. Okay. This is called Wild Honey, and it's from the Purple House record. The other song that I'm going to play has never been recorded, like anywhere except on my iPhone. So you're going to be the first to hear this thing, other than one or two friends, that I've played it for just like this, in some situation. So first, I'll play.
Such a good song.
I hope you can hear it okay. Maybe bring it a little closer, sweetie. Miracle mind, trying to reach a star. Head in a tango, headed for the bar, when a sudden sun sends a smile to me, clearing clouds as it promised me. This pure gold, wild honey, your joy. Wind from the west stirs the Tennessee trees. Raise up my window, feel a beautiful breeze, then softly leaves press against my skin. No more questions now, just gonna drink it in. This pure gold, wild honey, your joy. This pure gold, wild honey, you color my world in yellow and red. You gifts of the earth, all the words that were said. And if love wasn't whiskey, I might soon be dead from pure gold. Wild honey, pure gold. Shit. I messed up that inning. That's not the right chord. It's somewhere in here. Anyway, I can't quite remember the voicing for that.
Such a beautiful
song. And the happiest chord ever made, right? It's a series of fourths. Right? As I recall, Stevie Ray Vaughan used to use that chord a little bit. He did. I remember he uses the chord like that, you know. It's kind of a jazz voicing. So, yeah, it's in E flat, right? Tuned down a half step. There it is. I want to get it right, but I can't remember. So, a couple of cool things in this song that I was always, kind of dug. For instance, lovely leaves. I got the words wrong there too. Raise up my window, feel a beautiful breeze, and these lovely, lovely leaves brush against my skin. No more questions now. Right? B minor 11 to E6. Skin, no more questions now. And then to that E flat major 7. Drinking. So you have this constant kind of descending motion thing. I always dug that. Wow, hey. That chord right there. So it's B over C sharp, right? With the high E string played open. Pure joy. So it's just a real cool voicing of C sharp minor. C sharp minor 9. Because you have this. And there's the 11th. Cool voicing, right? And this. Pentatonic scale. E triad to the 6th. That's like C sharp minor 7, but it's also E, right? So pentatonic scale right down. E triad up to the 6th. C sharp minor up to the 5th here. That'd be. And that was inspired by, there's a Hendrix thing. I think it may be on Golden Rose, where he's gone, go down, dream I had not too long ago. Right? From Golden Rose. I'm pretty sure, it's Golden Rose. So that's what inspired that for me in the writing of this song. Let's see if there's anything about the bridge. Color my world, red, red. I do is like keep the bass line moving up, right? Gifts, gifts, gifts of the earth, all the words I've been saying. Right? It's pure gold. Vibrato on there. Oh, that's cool. And I just remembered I had this. There's actually a whole. I do this with 6 songs off of the entire Purple House album on my True Fire course, Songcraft Purple House. So I go into all 6 different songs like that. Got a good question here, babe?
Yeah, sure. This one.
From Leonardo Mercatore. Ciao, signore. Hi, Robin. Greetings from Etna, Sicily. Love it. When you perform a generic blues, what? Generic blues? How much part of improvisation is pure improvisation and how much part is studied and performed faithfully following a pattern? Yeah, I never work anything out, It's one of the beautiful things about the blues is you have such a simple form, You have, like fundamentally, it's kind of 5 tones, the pentatonic scale, right? Which, for instance, in the key of E would, it would have a G, it would be like a G minor chord if you played the E pentatonic, but it has the major 3rd in it too, right? You can play just an E7 chord. So, and the flatted 5th. So it's the great opportunity to just go crazy on those notes, like the thing that changes everything is your courage. You're not afraid to be a fool attitude. You don't care. You are willing to absolutely screw up in front of people loud. This is what makes the difference. So, it's important to be playing with other people. It's important to be in a band, but at least playing with other people and freaking out. It's like, I can confess that, when I was 13, I think I got my first electric guitar when I was 13. I think it was literally my 13th birthday. And I'd been fooling around on the acoustic a little bit, but just a plinky, not a good guitar. And I was also fooling around on the piano, and I was playing the saxophone in school. That's the instrument I was studying. So anyway, I finally got my first electric guitar, and I used to just plug into my amplifier and stand in front of the mirror and just go crazy. Just you got to shake out your body. You got to let it. You got to let the energy flow and not be too conceptual about it. And again, the great thing about the blues, B.B. King he did not structure his solos, but you can listen to B.B. King and a lot of his solos sound very much the same, but not quite. Because there was always that openness, it's like he's not going to necessarily do that right there. He does a lot, but not necessarily, because, so much of what he did was that call and response thing, right? He'd sing and then he'd play a couple of notes, and certain things become habitual because, quite honestly, if you're singing and playing, you're thinking a lot more about your singing, you have to. And then, he would just go and just play those notes in any order, It's only 5 tones. And then, of course, you can add the major 3rd, flatted 5th, because that's that bent 4th up a half step, right? Or the 5th down a half step. So you have the flatted 5th. And just go nuts with it. Just go nuts with it. Don't be afraid. Just turn it up and go for it.
Not afraid to be a fool.
Not afraid to be a fool. This is our motto.
We're thinking of making a T-shirt.
Yeah. Guys want a T-shirt?
Yeah. Want a T-shirt?
we're thinking about it,
Yeah. It'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to be a fool.
No coffee mugs yet. But.
No. No. T-shirt.
All right, let's crank it up.
Okay. All right. You have to bear with us a little. We're gonna switch it up. The view. So.
Oh, I'm sorry, baby.
No. You're getting ready over there.
Okay.
So you have to hang in there with us for a minute. Robben's gonna. Hopefully you can see you. Are you?
Again, set. You think that's all right?
Yeah.
Kind of back off of the camera a little bit. I hope you can see.
Yeah, everyone can see. Totally.
I'm not going to be too close up on the guitar.
That's all right.
I'm just gonna play.
He's gonna play with his little Walter amp there.
Oh yes, we have the little Walter, and I tell you what,
I'll show you again. Little Walter, just hanging out in his new spot in our house.
I wonder if you can turn it to. It's hard for you to see, right?
Middle.
Do you want to just go ahead and get out of your way?
Sorry,
so there's
guys.
the pedal board.
I'm kind of hard with it.
Can you see it?
Yeah,
it's just a little home pedal board. No matter. No matter.
Yeah, we're not so easy with doing this with the. There might be another way, but this is good enough.
Yeah, we're still figuring things out, folks.
It's all right.
So, this little Walter amplifier, this is just what it sounds like. It's an overdriven sound because it's like an old Tweed amplifier, only it's really well made. And so there's no overdrive. I have the slightest bit of reverb from a pedal, Hall of Fame. I really like the Hall of Fame reverb pedal. That's my favorite. And there's also just a little bit of delay, and that's coming from this pedal. It's called the Big Joe, I think. And this is something somebody just gave me to try. And it's a little dark for my taste. I don't mean to put it down or anything, but it's just a little bit dark. So you don't hear very much of either the delay or the reverb here right now. What you're hearing is this friggin' amplifier and this guitar. My audience, my live audience.
Yeah. Wow. Woo. That was great.
Wish we could hear from all those people out there.
I know. I mean, I'm sure at the bottom people are saying.
Shall we go sit down?
Yeah, let's sit down for a minute. Sure.
I'll meet you on the other side.
Okay.
I'm going this way. So.
Let's see.
What else?
Well, let's see if anybody. Oh yeah, there we go. Applause. Yes, yes. Okay.
So do they come in from top?
Well, I just went to the bottom so we could just see it.
But do they? Like they come in from the top or they come in from the bottom?
They're coming in from the bottom.
Okay. Somebody tell us how it sounds.
Okay, so I'm going to put that down there.
Is it acceptable sound?
Here we go. Damn, it sounds good. Thank you.
Okay.
Do you have any? Dig the feel the amp. Whoa, it's going crazy now. That's great. Clapping amazing. Cheers from Bonnie, Scotland. Oh, sweet.
Bonnie, Scotland. I thought she said Ronnie, Scotland.
Ronnie, Scotland.
Y'all know Ronnie Scott's in London, famous jazz club.
Sounds incredible. Glass-like. Can't wait to hear the Les Paul. Loved it. Screaming.
Beautiful.
Sounds slick.
Okay.
Awesome. Yay.
Shall we go back up a little bit? And,
thank you, everyone. Everyone wants to know about the PRS.
Yeah.
You want to talk about the PRS a little? Since people have been asking about that.
Well, I think I demonstrated last week, so there are two. And one of them is that, I think someone called it American Eagle. I mean, it does have an eagle on the headstock. So, again, as far as I know, this is one of only two guitars that he made that are like this. Wooden frets, wooden inlays with mother of pearl around them, wooden binding. And, he just makes amazing guitars. They're just beautiful. I'm still very attached to vintage, and so hard for me to move away from that. But, the PRS can have applications. And I think I mentioned it one or two back maybe about, I did use it on Jeff McErlane's record. And I don't remember the name of those songs, but it's a real up-tempo thing. Might be It's Your Groove from Jeff McErlane's record Now. You can get that on iTunes. Always nice to buy things, folks. Otherwise, we don't get paid for making music. And it costs us to make it. So, okay, what do we got?
I don't know.
Did you ever meet the late, great B.B. King? Oh, that's pretty good. I wish I could. I mean, I did, once. It's just like Mike Bloomfield. I met him once, and in both cases, it was very briefly. But it was a very cool little moment nonetheless. I was in Mexico with my group, the Blue Line. We were playing a blues festival in Mexico City. And I remember Albert King was there. Robert Cray was there. I was there, B.B. King. I think there was a fifth, and it might have been Albert Collins, but I'm not sure. But, we played our set. I think in order for it to work out, I think that we must have played second. We might have played first. But anyway, so after we played, Robert Cray played. And, so we'd all been hanging around behind this sort of fake stage behind the stage. There was just like an area about maybe 6 feet deep. And here was a curtain, and here's the wall, and it was long and narrow. And out here's, the band playing to the crowd. And so, we'd been there for quite a while. It'd been a long day. And so it's like, okay, we're going to split and maybe just go have dinner or something. But anyway, I walk out, I leave the back area, and there's B.B. King standing there, fully dressed suit, and he looked as big as, he just looked like a mountain. He just looked enormous, tall, like just what? He was huge. And I don't mean like overweight. He was just big, And I just, I'm actually shy with these kinds of situations. I'm always, kind of hard pressed to sort of put myself out there to heroes. But this, I just went, "Hi, baby, I'm Robben Ford." Just put my hand out, and he's like beaming. Robert Cray, they're right there playing on the stage, or right at the side of it. And he's like got this big smile on his face. And he goes, "Hi, Robben," and he puts like both of his hands take my hand, and again, it's just like, he's enormous. And he goes, "They sure sound good, don't they?" And then he does this little jig. He starts waving his finger, and he does a full turn. and went backstage. And I'm like, holy mackerel. I was just, I'm sure that I could have, spoken with him. But again, I know what it's like out there on the road, man. It's just, there's so many demands to touring that you're always looking for space, to just relax. So I always leave them alone, to my great detriment, I'm sure, because I know I'm always happy to meet, I know that BB was aware of me, and he had told somebody who had asked him about me and he had just said, "Oh, he's wonderful."
Oh.
So I heard that, through a friend who was hanging out with him, interviewing him, I think. And so anyway, that's my BB King experience.
Great. Lucky guy. Jason
Baidya. Hi, Robben, all the way from Kathmandu, Nepal.
Oh my God.
Namaste.
Wow. Isn't that beautiful?
Just a short question. How do you control volume when you approach solos, tone and drive stays the same, and it's just the volume goes up? How can I achieve? Let me get that straight. How do you control volume when you approach solos? Tone and drive stays the same, and it's just the volume goes up. Okay, so I'll say a couple of things about this. Like, I think you're referring to my sound, right? Because it's like it just gets louder. So I'll answer this question two ways. This is the one that was my first thought. Like, I am known for the Dumble amplifier and overdrive special, but I haven't used the overdrive special channel, the overdrive channel, live for many years, because I moved to just a pedal board, and I removed the dumbulator, which is the effects loop, and you need the dumbulator effects loop to be able to use pedals, and in particular the overdrive from the Dumble amplifier. If you're not using it, it just freaks out all the other pedals. They all sound bad. If you turn it on, everything just sounds bad. So I went to using pedals. And the Zen Drive has been my pedal of choice for many years. I'm actually starting to experiment with some others. I'm even going to show you, I think, this one. But the Dumble also has a boost, and basically what that is it just bypasses the tone controls. So now you have the amp as the amp is, without any tone controls having been injected into the chain. So it's louder. And that's what I use for my boost generally, is I just use, again, it's known as the boost. The other one's the overdrive. So it's known as the boost. So, but what it's doing is bypassing the tone control. So this is an interesting thing. And I learned this actually fairly recently. Like, and basically with via a super reverb, like if you turn all the controls all the way up on a super reverb, and this probably holds true for all Fender amplifiers, and many people know this, but anyway, I didn't. So if you, excuse me, if you turn the bass, bass all the way up, the mid all the way up, and just back the treble off a couple, put it on 8. That is actually the way the amplifier sounds if those tone controls weren't in there. So everything about the tone controls actually is removing, like when you start bringing up the bass, let's say you go to 10, you're removing frequencies. So you're already at a negative when you do that. I don't know if this makes sense to you, but really it should be the amp if it was all the way up, and now you add frequencies. And this is something that I just recalled. The Little Walter amplifier does that. They start at ground zero, and you can add up. The way the amp actually sounds as itself, with Fenders, you have to crank them all the way up to get everything the amp has to offer. So Warren Haynes sat in with my group somewhere in Europe, and he had a super reverb, and he had everything all the way up. He had the treble back, to 8, and it's like, wow, there's the amp. It's clear, So I say this in the spirit of even the Dumble. The tone controls are actually, would have to be all the way up to be the ceiling of the amplifier. So the boost bypasses the tone controls, and boom, up goes the volume. So that's how I sound like Pop Goes the Weasel. Up goes the volume. So that is how I get my boost. And then, so anyway, the other way I would answer the question is, whatever you use, you're always working with it. It's all about control, and also release. It's like, like if I hit like just a power chord of fifths, I have a hold of that thing. It's not just that. It's like my body is actually kind of tense. It's kind of like I'm gripping that sound. So I grip everything that I'm playing. I am very deliberate about every move that I make, So there's a real engagement. Like, right now my fingers are kind of stiff, like when I go like that. Like the energy is like, because I'm channeling the energy into my hands, everybody does it. It's not like something mystical or magical, but I'm in control of the energy, and that is how you control, the instrument. Like you're in control of your energy. You're directing it. It's very hands-on, very deliberate. I hope that answers your question a little bit, but I am just really blown away. Here you are, Kelly's been to Nepal a couple of times.
Yeah, I hope that the air quality must be much better there. No, we hope.
Mm-hmm. Oh, because of the sequester?
Yeah.
Are you sequestered?
Oh, yeah.
They must
I'm
be.
Sure.
You're sequestered too.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole planet Earth is happy about the sequester, right?
Yeah.
Like
there
planet
is a
Earth
silver lining.
Planet Earth can do without us.
Yeah.
But we're glad we're here. Okay, another question?
Okay, here.
Could you tell us? From Jay McLovin. Hey, Robben, would you tell us what a record producer is responsible for when producing and what your favorite part of producing is? Did this question come in since I talked about producing?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, because I did talk quite a bit about how I produce in a recent question.
Okay.
So I hope maybe that was answered. You could play it back later maybe, because I went into it in some real detail. Thanks for the question. I think I'll sing another song.
Yeah, good idea. Good idea. We like that. This is such a good song. No one's heard it yet.
So I'll tell you what, I'm just going to say this because these things come to mind. You know, I have the guitar tuned down to E flat. And it's like the tuning of an instrument has its own demands, right? It's like, and in particular, what I mean by that is keys. You know, if you're playing an E, and you know you love this Lightnin' Hopkins song, it's in E, he's tuned to E, then that's how you learn it, and that's how you play it, and that's how you think it's supposed to go, right? I sure didn't invent tuning down a half step. It's taken me a long time to come to it. Jimi Hendrix did it a lot. I think he did it not, like primarily because perhaps to give himself a little bit more ability to bend strings, just a little easier on him, because he used very heavy strings, and to get a sound. So string choice was for sound, playability, tuned down a half step, and it may have also been for his voice. And this is why I use tuning down a half step. In any case, it's always just because it's a better key for my voice, and I want those open strings, So my little thought was, also not to be too literal. If you learn how to play a particular song and it's in a certain key, then that's, like I did this my whole life. Like if I learned, Crosscut Saw by Albert King, and it's in the key of A, you played Crosscut Saw in the key of A, and it might not be the best key for your voice. So don't be afraid to change keys. And tuning down is another way to address the issue, so that all those keys where you couldn't get the open string thing and just relax and strum, you can now, And that's also, of course, the reason for the capo, is basically people only knew these, I call them cowboy chords lovingly, so that's all, those are the only chords they knew. And they wanted those open strings, So you put a capo, and now you can do the same thing, right? So that's keys. That's so that your voice is in the right place, is you're giving yourself the full range of your voice, So just to remember that. So this is in E flat. I just did this today for this song, and I'm so glad I did, because I wrote it in E because I wanted these open strings, and it was just a little too high for me. I just never expected to sing it for anybody. So I tried it down a half step today, and it's not too bad. As mentioned, this song has never been recorded by anybody anywhere. It's called After You've Gone. After you've gone, I feel the storm clouds brewing. just off the shore of my happy heart. Gonna be long before we start renewing those mad love moments that end when we part. Wind, please blow the storm clouds away. Don't let them harm, at least for a day. Killing the time, or is that time just killing? Willing to wait, but will I survive? Half a heart continues to burn. You're gonna haunt until your return. After you've gone, I fall into disquiet. Sending my love to finally you're here. Finally you're here. You're the first. Don't tell anybody.
So beautiful. It's so beautiful. Let's see what people said about that.
I hope they said good things or nothing at all. What do we got there?
Oh my goodness. So it's going so fast. Sounds great.
Nice tune. Nice. Thank you. This is a perfect Sunday. We agree with you.
Love Vietnam. Oh, I love Vietnam.
I love Vietnam.
Oh,
okay.
Loved it. Everyone likes it. That's great. It's a beautiful song. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Go back to some other questions though. Sounds good. And Joni, you have happiest neighbors, we hope. Hi, Robben Kelly. Can you speak about your work in Joni Mitchell's Hissing of Summer Lawn? Did she influence your approach on chords? Greetings from Buenos Aires. Thank you, my friend, down in Buenos Aires.
Sweet.
I don't know if you know this, but I was made an honorary citizen of Buenos Aires. How about that? I was down there for several days.
What, should we show them the knife?
Oh, that's a big deal. Oh, you'll like this, my friend. I had the privilege of meeting this really quite wealthy man, and he was a big fan, had been for 30 years, and we went to his house, the whole band, and he cooked meat for us himself on an open, grill kind of a thing, and he gave this gift to me, when we all sat down to finally eat. He gave me this gift, which is, this is a knife, right? I have to hold it in there. I don't think it'll.
Can you take it out?
Yeah, I just thought this would be a nice way to see it kind of presented within that context. Beautiful. Okay, so this is what he said. The Caballeros the Cowboys in Buenos Aires, they would carry one of these, and he said they'd use it, only for cutting meat and let's say protection. Those are the only two purposes. You must know this, I bet. So I'll go ahead and pull it out. I don't want to, Lord knows what kind of feng shui is at work here, But anyway, and he said, you never clean it with water. He said, you only clean it. He took out like a slice of bread and he, shoved it into the bread and did like this to clean the knife. So you never clean it with water. Ah. And this was made. There's a further story here. I actually wrote it and posted it some years ago, I think on Facebook. But the gentleman who made this, his family have been metallurgists in Buenos Aires for over 350 years. Last name is Payarols. Pacharols is how he said it. If you read it, it would be Payarols. So you might be familiar with this, but you can find him. Juan Payarols, I think. And his family were metallurgists for the state, and so his one of his relatives, his grandfather or whatever, made the death mask for Evita Peron. I saw this in his house. His house is half of it is a museum, half of it is a workplace, and they make incredible things. Juan Carlos Payarols, I think, is the name. And he said for 350 years, his family has been making the chalice for the popes.
So
all of them.
Cool. Wow.
And he had just finished making the chalice for the Pope, Francis. And he went back and he brought it out. And he showed it to us. He told us a little story about it.
So sweet.
So I held Pope Francis's goblet, chalice before he did.
Blessed by Robben Ford.
Oh. But anyway,
Lucky Pope.
Someone said, so your DNA is on the Pope's chalice. I'm like, wow, that's just so far out. Yeah. So anyway.
Do you want to answer his question?
The question was?
Right here.
Joni Mitchell.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we got sidetracked here big time, didn't we?
Sorry.
So Joni Mitchell, her style of guitar playing and the fact that she used, she was always using tunings, right? I never really connected with the tunings. It's always been, just standard tuning for me. And I can say that it was a great privilege working with her. Hissing of Summer Lawns. That was an interesting period, man. It's a very interesting period. I played on like 4 songs on that record. And I'll tell you one story, which was in France, They Kiss on Main Street. I'm doing all the riffing guitar. And so this is a perfect Joni Mitchell story for how open she was, and how new and unopen I was. So, I'm plugged into an amp. I'm cranked up loud or whatever, I'm doing my B.B. King thing or whatever, taking these riffs over in France, They Kiss on Main Street. She's like, Robben, I don't think that's the right sound, why don't you come in? So I go into the control room. Just a lovely bunch of people. John Guerin was there, the drummer, and they were, boyfriend, girlfriend. Joan's just lovely. Henry Louis, lovely man, is the engineer, and me. And maybe Tom Scott was there too. It's just great. All these people, and everybody's kind of creative. Everybody has some input, So I love that. So she says, what if you take an overdrive pedal and we'll plug it right into the console? I'm like, oh, Joan, that's the worst, man. Direct guitar? Please. I'm telling her, And I'm 22. So she says, well, let's just try it. Like, she was always like the most chill person in that way. Couldn't believe it. To this day, I always just, wow, what a beautiful, open artist, So, to Joni Mitchell. So, okay, I'm kind of cranky about it. We plug it in, and then we start, and somehow it seems to be working, and she's liking it, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm game. So we played through a variety of things, and then she said, like there's a part, I think it's on the last verse, that's something about like some kind of like bright flags, and it was sort of like, kind of like, she wanted something that sort of sounded like the 4th of July or something like that. And so I play this little 6th thing, boom, dang, and then boom, and it's like things kind of popping in the air, was what I came up with for that. She loved it, She was really happy with all of that. Beyond that, an interesting thing on that in recording that record was Harry's House. That song is just so edgy, and my guitar playing on that is almost irritating, And I think it was a combination of like really being a little out of my depth. I was not relaxed in the studio at that time. I was very new. I was a baby. I was like 1 year with these people, and I'm like, wow, I just came out of nowhere. And so I was just, intimidated, Again, they were so lovely and friendly that it was okay. They made it okay. But because I was so uptight, I actually hit the mark with that song, because it's all about irritation, that song, That's that whole album, deep record. I remember listening to it in my car one time, and I was listening to Shadows and Light, which is the last song on the record, and I had to pull over. It just got so emotional for me. I had to pull over and finish listening because I couldn't drive. She's amazing, one of a kind, She's in the league, of the great artists. Pablo Picasso, in her own way. That's the kind of being that she, it has been for all these years. We're probably pretty deep into it here, babe, right?
Do you want to get loud again?
No,
you're done?
It hurts my ears.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and that's the way that amp sounds best. I'm hoping next week that I will have also, come on in, babe. I'm hoping that I'm going to have this other amp that I can play quietly and have it, have the right sound for chords, and stuff like that. Right now, this is
pretty. My ears were hurting a little bit.
Yeah. So,
but we had to, it's Little Walter.
Had to do it.
We had to do it for.
That's the sound of the Little Walter King Arthur, and I love it.
Yeah.
So,
pretty sweet.
So, do indeed please check out the Robben Ford Guitar Dojo channel on the True Fire platform, and are we going to start giving lessons? Or we're waiting.
No.
We're waiting for the True Fire private lesson thing. That'll happen when we're able to go live, and when we're able to actually do those lessons live.
Like a Zoom.
Yeah.
They don't have that available. Right?
Not yet, but we will do that. So anything else?
Make sure to subscribe.
Subscribe.
Because we're doing this every Sunday.
Every Sunday.
Future.
That's right.
Stay safe.
Stay safe.
And hang in
happy.
There. Get outside. Enjoy the fresh, beautiful spring air.
It is spring.
It's just so.
And we're hoping this sequester thing is going to start lightening up. I think everyone has that same sense that it will. But good to take care, but we've gotten a little too paranoid.
Yeah,
I think
maybe a little paranoid. But just stay safe.
Yeah, just do the right things. Wash your hands. Use the Purell. And social distancing is cool too, but we should be able to hang out a little bit more. I think, not be afraid. I've noticed that in the grocery store, people won't even look at each other because it might mean you'll have to engage, and then I'm too close.
Yeah,
Come
it's
on.
funny. I was in the store the other day. I was just wearing a bandana or a scarf, and I was looking at the guy, and I realized that I had the thing over my face, and so he couldn't see me smiling at him. And I thought, how interesting. We're all walking around with these things on our face, and we have no expression. So it's almost like you don't exist in some weird way. I had to take it down, or I said, I'm smiling under here, and thank you so much for being here. It's beautiful. All these people who are actually out there interacting. Very sweet.
So we'll leave it on that note, and thank you very much, everyone. It's a blast for us too.
Hanging out, yeah.
Hope you're enjoying it as much as we are.
Yeah. Thank you.
And we'll see you next Sunday.
Bye.
All right.